Hey everybody, Kyle Sasser here, and it's everyone's favorite time of the month. That's right, market statistics time. These statistics are for Pinellas County for June 2022. You might be asking yourself, it is July. Why are we looking at June numbers? And there's definitely a good reason for that. One is that it naturally takes the local realtor organization or the MLS, whatever you'd like to call them, it takes them a while to get these statistics together. And honestly, it takes real estate agents a while to put the information in as well. So these statistics usually lag behind about a month. In addition, we're also not looking at month-to-month numbers. We're actually looking at year over year. So we're not looking at June 2022 compared to May 2022. What we're actually looking at is June 2022 compared to June 2021. So it's important to know that information because it does affect our interpretation of these results. And the reason why we look at year over year is because real estate usually does not move that fast. It usually takes a long time for statistics to show a clear change. Currently, we are in the midst of a pretty significant shift with real estate. So I'm actually having to look at both year to year, so June 2022 versus June 2021, as well as month to month. I have the 2021 numbers here next to me. But basically we have a new trend that has shaped up here in the last 2 to 3 months, and I will be giving you all that detail and explanation in this video, so be sure to watch until the end. So if we're looking at big picture here, the overall trend for the last year and a half has been shrinking inventory, highly escalating median and average sales prices. Now, I know there's a lot of talk in the news and probably your friends that, the real estate market is busting now and there's price reductions all over the place. The truth of the matter is, yes, we are in the middle of a market shift right now. I'm going to go over all those details with you. However, median and average sales prices compared to last year are still increasing. Best way that I can explain it is that we no longer can just completely make up numbers and have a buyer come along that's willing to pay those numbers. So the price reductions are a little bit of a misnomer currently because it's kind of like trying to sell a can of Coke for $10. There's only a few market conditions that will support selling a can of Coca-Cola for $10. And that's going to be, like inside of a stadium or at a concert or something like that. So what's happening is there's lots of sellers and real estate agents that are still trying to take big swings at unproven numbers. And what's happened is the demand is no longer there to support those big numbers. So then they put through a price reduction which tries to bring things a little bit more in line with, quote unquote, normal market conditions. So that's kind of a basic overview. I'm going to get into the real nuts and bolts of all this stuff. And then after I go over the stats, I will go over interpretations and what's kind of coming down the pipeline and what I'm keeping an eye on. So total number of closed sales in Pinellas County is actually down 19.4%, and that's down from 1,331 to 1,073. One thing to keep in mind with closed sales is that, so just like we're comparing June 2022 numbers to June 2021 numbers, June 2022 closed sales are actually based on inventory and contracts that were written 30 to 45 days, 50 days, maybe even like 60 to 90 days back in time, which was much different market conditions. So you always have to kind of keep in mind with that. That is more than likely that number is going to hold where we are selling fewer houses than the previous year. But it's interesting to see as we continue to build inventory if that number picks up a little bit. A little bit of grain of salt with that closed sale number. Just remember that closed sales are based on contracts from a month ago. Total number paid in cash, which is interesting, is actually down 22.8%. So that dropped from 487 to 376. That's of note because there was a point in time where we had a lot of homes being bought with cash, like 40 to 50% homes bought with cash was not unusual. So seeing that number decline also tells us that people are not as willing to, pull their investment accounts or pull cash to purchase a home. Median sales price is still up. Like I said, median average sales price is still climbing year over year. So median sales price is up 18.7% from $375,000 to $445,000. Average sales price is up to 23.5% from $485,863 to $600,192. If you remember in math class, the difference between average and median. So average is you take let's say five houses, you add up the sales price of each of those and you divide it by 5, that gives you the average. Median sales price is a little different. So that's where, let's say you have 12 houses for sale. The median price is the midpoint where there's an equal number of houses for sale above that point as well as an equal number below. Personally, I kind of give a little bit more weight to the median sales price because average sales price can be swung significantly if there is a large amount of very inexpensive or very expensive, which is more likely in Pinellas County's case. If a lot of very expensive homes sell during the month, that can really swing that average sales price number. Total dollar volume has basically held steady. So even though we have sold fewer homes, total dollar volume has held steady with only a change of 0.4% in the negative, and that's around 644 million. Median time to contract went up 40%, which is a doom and gloom percentage, but when you find out that it only went from 5 to 7 days, it doesn't quite have the same amount of impact. Number of new listings is up 5.2%, total of 1,535, which is interesting because we do have more houses going up for sale, but that's not resulting in a higher number of closed sales, which means we're building inventory. And total number of active listings is up 47.8%, which is a big percentage. So total inventory is up 47.8% to a total of 1,685. Now, just so you know, so far as these percentages go, it is important to keep in mind perspective and all that stuff. So 0, 1%, or 2% usually doesn't mean too much. I kind of put that in with the just kind of the typical margin of error. However, whenever you start seeing like 20%, 40% especially, that means big changes are afoot and definitely something to keep an eye on. Now, I do like to dive a little bit more into the different price points because the honest truth is that a $250,000 house sells with a little bit different time frame than a $1 million house, or even like a $700,000 or $800,000 house. So I do like to go into the different price points for each of these. So total number of closed sales, I'm not going to go over each and every one of these other than just to give you some general outlook and kind of shifts and stuff like that. We've had a bit of a hard break at like the $300,000 mark for the last year. That's kind of the dividing line. And the reason why is because as home prices have gone up, basically houses have moved up into the next price bracket. So it's not that we created a whole bunch of like $400,000 and $500,000 houses, like we didn't build a bunch of new ones. What that is basically $200,000 to $300,000 houses have moved up into a new price bracket. So the interesting thing here is that basically below $250,000, there's not a lot of activity. There is a total of about maybe 40 houses that have sold in the entire county under $250,000. And that is a price reduction, and that is a reduction of about 75% in each price point. So like 150 to 200,000, there was a total of 14 sales, which was a reduction of 74.1%. 300 to 400,000, that's kind of the the little break point or turning point, whatever you want to call it. And that's gone. There's a total of 301 of those that sold, and that's a reduction of 16.4%. And then 400,000 and above, it looks like there's significantly more closed sales, which there are, but just remember that that's because existing homes moved up into that new price point, not that we built a bunch of $600,000 to $1 million houses. Median time to contract is basically held pretty steady across all price points. 150 to 200,000, which again, there was not many, but those still went under contract within 5 days, which is 28.6% shorter than it was last year. 300 to 400,000 is at 7 days, which is 40% longer than last year, actually. So those numbers have ticked up a little bit. The only crazy one is 50 to 100,000, which was a total of 2. So there's a total of 2 sales in that price range. And this kind of goes to show you, whenever there's low numbers, a small change can have a huge impact percentage-wise. And so $50,000 to $100,000 homes, median time to contract was 63 days, which was a percentage change compared to June 2021 of 6,200%, which is honestly just kind of a fun statistic to give. Total inventory by listing price, again, we have that break at 300,000. So below 300,000, it looks like there's fewer homes for sale in those price points, which there are. And above 300,000, there are more going up for sale, which is also true. The interesting thing is that we've actually, some of these are doubled. So $400,000 to $600,000, there's 107.4% more of those for a total of 502, 600 to $1 million. There are 103.6% more of those at 338. And that $300,000 to $400,000 range, there's a total of 355, which is an increase of 41.4. Doom and gloom page here, which is the last page of this report, so this is going to be short sales, foreclosures, bank-owned properties, REOs, and all that fun stuff. Again, not a lot of activity here. There has not been a flood of foreclosures since the eviction moratorium or the foreclosure moratorium has been lifted. And I can tell you personally, if you are facing a foreclosure, short sale, or anything like that, please reach out to me. I can almost assuredly sell your property for you and put some money in your pocket out of it. That is how much the market has moved currently. So currently there is no sense in letting a house go to foreclosure, or condo or townhome or anything. Like, I literally just did one 2 weeks ago where the sellers were walking away, they had given up on it, and I was able to sell it within like 3 weeks and put $40,000 in their pocket. So, total number of foreclosures, there was a total of 2 in the entire county, which is 60% less than the year previous. The interesting stat there is that the median sales price for those foreclosures increased 298% for a total of 605,000. So that's, again, a bit of a fun stat to give whenever the numbers are very low. Total number of short sales held steady at 1. There was a total of 1 short sale in the entire county in the month of June. So I mentioned at the beginning of this video that we're definitely in the middle of a market shift, and that is absolutely true. Everyone's time frame for real estate market shifts, though, is way off. For a very simple reason. People are not in the business or habit of selling their house for less than they paid for it. So just keep that in mind with everything. Now, I did read an article. Forbes said that by the fall that home prices are going to be dropping like 25% or something ridiculous, 40%. That would be an absolute economic catastrophe, and there's no way in hell that it's going to happen. So the last major economic catastrophe we had, which was the Great Recession, technically kind of started in 2007, didn't really get rolling until 2008. And even then, the price reduction was maybe like 5% at that point in time. It took all the way to 2010 for prices to actually slide 30 to 40%, depending upon what part of the country that you're in. So that magazine article, if you want to call it that, I think it was just a blog post of somebody just making stuff up for clicks. To believe that there is some chance of that happening in 2 months is ridiculous and completely misunderstands the real estate market entirely. And here's the reason why. People don't wake up overnight and decide to sell their house for 20% less than they paid for it. It just does not happen. The only time that people are willing to sell that much lower is when they are absolutely desperate. And to become absolutely desperate, it takes time. And we have not had enough chance to build that sort of problem. Because even though we have building inventory, compared to 3 to 4 years ago, those numbers are still crazy. We still have a crazy low amount of homes for sale, and we still have a crazy amount of people looking to buy homes. And financing is still relatively easy. When I mention financing, everyone goes, oh, interest rates. Here's the thing to know about interest rates. The 2 to 3% that we have been able to get for the last year or two, that was because of COVID. That is not where interest rates normally are. If you look at a chart of historic interest rates, and you can go all the way back to the 70s, the only time that we had interest rates in the twos was basically the last 12 months. And for the last 20 years, interest rates have been bouncing around between about 4% and 6%. Now, currently we're a little bit above 6%, although that does change weekly. But I do still have clients that are able to get in the fours. And a lot of that has to do with financial situation as well as how much you can put down. And if you have cash, you can buy down, there's some programs where you can buy down percentage points, but it is all very specifically for your financial situation. So don't think that it's impossible to buy or that you're paying some crazy interest rate. 4 to 6% for the last 20 years is where interest rates have been. And then also if you want some really fun stuff, go look at interest rates in the late 70s to the mid 80s when they're bouncing around like 12 to 16%. My hat's off to anybody who bought a house in the late 70s to the 80s. The other thing to keep in mind is just how people react to news as well as the process of selling their house. The thought that the market at any point in time was going to maintain this blisteringly fast pace is not realistic at all. That's basically the high point of demand versus supply ratio. And markets being market, they are going to try to find equilibrium somehow. So demand is currently down significantly, and we're building inventory. It's going to take a while for that to show up as truly reducing prices though. So a true reducing price is when the average and median sales price is lower than it was 12 months ago. And to be honest, we have 2 or 3 mileposts that we need to get past before then. And if you look back to my previous videos, you will know what they are already. But first milepost is we have to build inventory, specifically absorption rate, but inventory needs to go up. We need more houses for sale than people are buying. As long as more people are buying homes than we are listing for sale, it's always going to be high demand. Prices are always going to be skyrocketing. So now we are actually adding inventory, significantly so. Over 40% in the case of Pinellas and over 80% in the case of Hillsborough County. That's crazy. The next number that should move is time to contract, and it is not moving yet. So what that time to contract number tells me is that we still have a very large amount of demand. If we did not have that demand, that time to contract would start moving significantly. June, it went from 5 days to 7 days. For this month, July, it has moved more. I think the last numbers I looked at was it's hanging around 15 days, which is 2 weeks. Compared to normal market conditions, quote unquote, that is still blisteringly fast. A seller's market is whenever you are able to go under contract up to within 40 to 60 days. That is a seller's market. That means that prices are going up and buyers are not getting as many concessions as they were able to. A neutral market is anywhere between 40. A neutral market is going to be 60, 70 days, somewhere around there, 60, 70, 80 days. And then a buyer's market is going to be usually 60 days or more. So that's when sellers' prices should be coming down, buyers are able to get more concessions, seller paid closing costs, etc., etc. I need to be very clear on this. We are nowhere close to a buyer's market. If anything, what we're at currently is we had the pedal to the metal for the last year, and we've lifted off currently to about 3/4. Now, we might continue letting off that pedal, but we're not anywhere close to hitting the brakes yet. And that's not me trying to be salesy. That's just me monitoring the MLS data, seeing how long things are hanging around on the market, seeing what successful offers actually look like to get accepted. Now, the plus side is the days of having to offer, $20,000 to $60,000 above asking price and going up against, 30 or 40 other offers. Thankfully, that's not the case anymore. But on a fully renovated home in a great neighborhood, that is on everybody's radar, if it has a pool, garage, done up to the nines, there's still going to be a significant amount of interest on that, and you're probably still going to have to go above asking price. But if you are in the market for, a home that needs a little bit of work or something that's a little off the beaten path, the good news is we're actually able to negotiate asking price or in many cases below asking price. That is where we're at. We're not at the point where sellers are, wailing, please won't anybody buy my house. That doesn't really happen until we get to that 60-day contract mark. And we're currently at 7, so we got a long way to go there. But that said, if this current trend continues, I would fully expect to start to see price reductions not anytime within the next few months, unless there's a major economic catastrophe blows up. But if this continues for 6 to 18 months, which is how long the previous trend of extremely shrinking inventory and skyrocketing prices. If you go back to my videos in June of last year, I was already forecasting that, hey, prices are going to go nuts and people are going to lose their mind. So real estate just takes a long time to get going. And if this trend continues, I would expect to see the price reductions start to come more in the 6 to 18 month price range. So if you've been thinking about selling, now is the time. Now is the time to call me and get me to put that sign in your yard, and let's get that place sold. Well, thank you so much for watching the market statistics video for June 2022. I want to thank you for tuning in. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to leave them down below. If you want to have me do up a home valuation, or if you have an interest in purchasing a house and how to get a house under contract for less than asking price currently, just leave me a comment down below, or you can give me a call or text at 813-323-7396. Subscribe, you know the the theme on that one. And other than that, thank you for tuning in, and I'll talk to you soon.